Hey everyone, in this video we want to spend a little time talking to you about this idea called radical acceptance. And this is something that you can use whenever you're in a bad mood about a situation, whether that situation involves you or, for example, the events going on around you.
Any unpleasant event.
Yes. Really. Yeah, basically just anything that's bringing up negative emotions in you. And radical acceptance is, as the name implies, just accepting everything that is in the present moment. It's understanding.
Not trying to fight it.
Yeah.
Because whatever we resist, our attention goes to, and it's like a race car driver. You never focus on the wall, right?
Yeah, because then you steer into it and crash.
Yep.
And so radical acceptance is, if something has happened or is in the process of happening, it's understanding that you can't change what's already happened. You can't affect the past. The present moment is the only moment that you have control over, and you can change how you respond to something, and that you shouldn't really pass judgment and be overly critical of yourself or others, because everything that's happened in this very moment is the result of millions and infinitely a bunch of decisions, right, that aren't exclusively yours or someone else's.
Yeah, so
there's
you
no
can't
fault to
judge
be given.
one action or one person's behavior or one event as a total human, right, or total horrible catastrophe. There will always be good from it. There's always context and variables that play in.
Yeah, so basically, whatever situation you're in, you have control over how you respond to it. That's radical acceptance. What's an example of this?
Thinking my life is ruined, I will never work again, something like that.
Okay, horrible negative thoughts.
Yes, we can reframe it and redirect it and say, this is a trying time, but it's giving me a lot of time to rethink certain aspects of my life that are not working.
Okay, that's super philosophical and positive. I like it.
Radical acceptance.
And shifting these thoughts would tend to change kind of how you're feeling about the situation, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so when you're feeling anxious or discouraged or defeated, you can redirect it to peaceful thoughts. Meditation really helps me. Maybe
finding the silver lining in the situation.
Yeah, always looking for what good is coming out of that.
Figuring out instead of withdrawing and hyper-focusing on the negativity of a situation, kind of just practicing self-compassion and continuing to move forward with your life, understanding that
the present moment is the only thing that you have control over.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Excessive worry and negativity about past events aren't going to do any good.
No, it just increases it usually, because then our mind obsesses over all this negative shit that's going on.
Yeah, it takes a lot of practice to do.
Yes, that's something that I do want to mention. Most people, they hear these concepts, and then if they don't get it right away, they just give up. They're just they go back to their old thought processes, and that's not what you do. So me, the way I think, has been a culmination of 15 years of working on my negative thought patterns, constantly. And it does get easier over time, and it becomes second nature. But in the beginning, it's very hard, and you have to consciously redirect it.
Yeah, and something like radical acceptance sounds really simple, but it's going to take that practice to be able to start implementing it on a habitual basis. In the beginning, you're going to need to put active thought towards realizing, pausing and realizing, okay, I'm being very negative right now. I'm hyper-focusing on negative aspects and past events. So I need to implement my radical acceptance. And then you can start actively trying to shift your thought pattern. Yes. And over time, ideally, that will just start to happen for you naturally, because it'll become habitual.
Yes.
And for people that are in relationships, I would say that everyone's going to have disagreements in relationships. And so that's a perfect opportunity to kind of practice it. But in addition to that, or if you aren't someone who has those relationship experiences, what would you say are some other ways that they could practice doing radical acceptance?
Well,
maybe like, what about COVID?
Well, yeah, I was trying to stay away from that.
Yeah, but
like, well, when you lose a job, that can apply here too, right? Everyone's losing their jobs right now, but when you lose a job, you can look at it as an opportunity and time to create something new. Yeah. You wouldn't have that otherwise, and you can't change it. So what is getting angry going to do? That's what you have to ask yourself.
Yeah, being angry about losing your job is completely unproductive. Instead, you should look at what the job has brought you in terms of skill sets and experience and move forward with that information to try and find a new job, or
and just practice self-compassion with it. And refocus on your goals, your larger goals in life, not your short-term goals, which is usually short-term employment or something. Yeah.
And I mean, some other kind of things that you can do on the daily, if you fall into this category, is to, read a controversial story in a newspaper, or, I don't know, listen to
trigger yourself a little. So what I do is I join these health groups, and I get all fired up.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, that's just what they believe. There's nothing I can do, right? Radical acceptance.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. Trigger yourself a little so that you can have experience overcoming those triggers and realizing that you have no control over other people and the events that have happened.
No control over anyone else. And that's what I think a lot of people struggle with that too.
Yeah.
You have to accept people as they are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you like this, give us a like, share, or subscribe to the channel.